A singer's life usually consists of two roles, a performer and a teacher. Most singers devote their career to the stage, treating teaching as a side occupation. Fewer have dedicated most of their career to mature young singers, and the fewest achieve prominence in both performing and teaching. Among them, Pierre Bernac needs our attention both as an outstanding performer and an influential teacher. Pierre Bernac was one of the most important French singers of the 20th century. As a baritone matrin, his singing was characterized by a refined, high and light baritone voice with impeccably clear and gentle enunciation, and a sensitive, flexible approach to phrasing. His close relationships to several major composers, most notably Francis Poulenc, made him the definitive interpreter of a large repertoire of melody. Bernac began taking singing lessons at the age of 18, under the guidance of composer André Caplet and coach Yvan Gouvernet. After 8 years of hard training, he made recital debut, accompanied by his coach, and soon became known as a prominent interpreter of French melody. In 1926, he gave the first performance of Poulenc's Chanson Gaillarde, accompanied by Poulenc himself. This collaboration became a harbinger of things to come. Bernac's operatic career was also brief. He only made two excursions into opera, both as Pelléas in Pelléas et Mélisande. His partnership with Poulenc finally continued in 1934, 8 years after their first acquaintance. Bernac, visiting Salzburg Festival, was asked to give a recital on Debussy at a short notice. Having no desirable accompanist and knowing Poulenc was also in Salzburg, Bernac sent him a three-line note saying, "I have been asked to sing some Debussy in 3 days' notice. Would you agree to accompany me? Handsome fee, give me your reply quickly." Poulenc also agreed promptly, and they formed a musical rapport so great that they decided to form a musical partnership. Bernac and Poulenc introduced their partnership with the premiere of Poulenc's Cinq Poèmes de Paul Éluard. Their partnership lasted for 25 years, until Bernac retired from the stage. During then, they built up a repertoire not only based on Poulenc's own songs, but also exploring the works of other prominent French songwriters from the 17th century to the 20th century, and also including songs by Brahms, Schubert, Schumann, Verdi, and others. Their fame and influence also expanded outside of France. On their British tour, they performed in 5 cities, including London, and broadcasted recitals on the BBC. The Second World War delayed their American debut until 1948. After the debut, the New York Times said of Bernac, "The integrity and elegance of his singing quickly won him a following among connoisseurs of art song interpretation." The artistry of Bernac also influenced Poulenc in return. Poulenc wrote 90 out of 140 songs for Bernac. Although Bernac avoided the operatic stage after 1936, Poulenc relied on him for technical advice on vocal matters when writing his opera and his late Gloria. Poulenc said his association with Bernac was the only reason why he wrote so many songs. He once said, "No one will ever sing my songs better than Bernac, who knows the inner secrets of my music." It was also through accompanying him in Schubert, Schumann, Fauré, Debussy, and Ravel that I learned my trade as a melodist. Other composers who wrote for Bernac include German composer Paul Hindemith, English composer Lionel Berkeley, and American composer Samuel Barber. Bernac retired from the concert platform at the age of 60. Then he transferred his high standard and artistry to pedagogy. In retirement, Bernac conducted master classes in France, Britain, and the US, and was on the faculty of the American Conservatory in Fontainebleau. He also taught privately. Singers who study with him include Jesse Norman and Gerald Souzet. We can clearly find Bernac's influence on lyricism and lightness in Souzet's recordings. Then, what guidance did Bernac give to his young singers who came to him for advice and coaching? According to a short biography by Thomas Grab, he constantly found that singers do not attach as much importance as they should to the interpretation of the poem. He urged them to read the poem before working on the song, to read it aloud, with the interpretation that an actor would give to it. Another quality Bernac insisted was a great variety of colors on his palette of sound. The singer needs to have a different voice for each of the songs he interprets. Without that, a whole recital of songs can be terribly monotonous. From these two requirements, we might think Bernac was a strict teacher with no tolerance to imperfection. However, he was also very patient and to untalented and ill-mannered pupils. He often exerted his criticism with a sense of humor that is both keen and dear, to delight both of his students and the audience. Sometimes after a class, he would say, "I fear that I was boring today. Please forgive me." This humility is the ultimate lesson he was offering and the same demand he made to himself, and is the essential ingredient of a truly great artist. Bernac was a complete musician who loved all kinds of music, instrumental as well as vocal. He insisted his students to attend concerts whenever possible. After each concert, Bernac would become much more animated than usual in his conversation about the performance. His judgments revealed his high standard on the quality of performance. Any given performance was either sublime or disappointing, while most were simply mediocre, even after hearing some of the best orchestras in the world. This kind of judgments isn't without justification. Bernac had ears that were unbelievably keen. He was highly attentive to the pianist upon the sonority, attack, and dosage of pedal. Thomas Grab, as a concert pianist, expressed that Bernac taught him more about the piano than any of his piano teachers. As a master of French melody, Bernac also wrote two books, The Interpretation of French Song and Francis Poulenc, The Man and His Songs. Both books show a fine literary style and become must for any serious student for the French repertory. What then propels Bernac to devote his life to the art of singing, both as a performer and a teacher? He concludes, "At all events, I had a preconception of the past that the interpreter might play in the marriage of poetry and music. The magnificent role that could be his in serving the poets as well as the musicians. And this exciting prospect was enough to decide my life." With this quote in head, let us end this presentation and enjoy the art of pure Bernac at its best in Tu vois le feu du soir.
Tu vois le feu du soir qui sort de sa coquille, et tu vois la forêt enfouie dans sa fraîcheur. Tu vois la plaine nue au flanc du ciel traînant, la neige haute comme la mer, et la mer haute dans l'azur. vois des villes teintes de mélancolie dorée, des trottoirs pleins d'excuses. Une place où la solitude a sa statue souriante et l'amour une sale maison. Tu vois les animaux, sots malins, sacrifiés l'un à l'autre, frères immaculés, aux ombres confondues, dans un désert de sang. Tu vois un bel enfant quand il joue, quand il rit, il est bien plus petit que le petit oiseau du bout des branches. Tu vois un paysage aux saveurs d'huile et d'eau, d'où la roche est exclue, où la terre abandonne sa verdure à l'été qui la couvre de fruits. Des femmes descendant de leur miroir ancien t'apportent leur jeunesse et leur foi en la tienne, et l'une sa clarté la voile qui t'entraîne